episode is somebody I have been waiting to talk to. Claudia Cabellero, the director and president of Centro Hispano. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
I'm excited about this because this show is called Voices of the Valley, and there are so many different voices in East Tennessee. Absolutely. And having you here opens us up to one of our many communities, and that is our Hispanic community and population. First, talk about how did you get to Knoxville? Because you're not from Knoxville.
I'm not from Knoxville. This is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life, as an adult or as a child. I moved here 7 years ago now from Austin, Texas. And I was looking for a community that I could contribute to. I'm a small town person. I wanted to get away from traffic, and honestly, I wanted to be able to buy a home. And so in 2016, packed everything up and moved here.
You came here solely for the position at Centro Hispano?
No, actually chose Knoxville first and then looked for a job. I remember that I was looking at cities in the Southeast, and I saw Three Rivers Market, and I said, oh, any community that puts this much effort into a food co-op is going to be great. So that's how I was very scientific about my choice.
I love it. How did you get connected with Centro Hispano?
It was an online search for a job. It was just really meant to be. I was back in the day when we used to use Skype. Yeah. I did a Skype interview from Austin, and they waited 2 months for me when I was I was going to move in July, and so we had an interview, I think, in late March, and it happened. So I started my job on July 5th. So drove out of Texas on the 3rd, rested on the 4th, and started. The rest has just been a lot of hard work.
I love it. You've done great things with Centro. You know, when you think of East Tennessee, you think of Appalachia, you think of small town, you think of rural, and as well as a middle-sized city. But we have a thriving and growing Hispanic population. You know, talk a little bit about your work to bridge the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting. Anywhere I go across the United States, I'm going to find Latino community, and I'm always excited for that. I've gone to very small towns farther up in the mountains of East Tennessee, and you'll find a little Mexican store, or I love thrift shopping, so I'll find folks thrift shopping and speaking Spanish. I'll ask them where they're from. But yeah, we have a large Latino community, large relatively. It's growing very fast, and mostly from Mexico. That's our largest population. We also have the second largest is a Guatemalan indigenous population. And we're seeing more and more of the Venezuelan and Colombian neighbors coming just due to political and historical financial situations in their countries.
What is some of the work that you do with Centro?
We do
a lot.
We do a lot. It's really great work. Our vision is we want to see the Latino community thrive culturally, educationally, and economically, like everyone wants, right? These are very human wishes and desires and needs. And so we have 3 big areas of work: youth and family, workforce development, and community resources. And in youth and family, we have everything from helping kids that have very limited English that are in the school system. We do after-school programming, supporting math and reading goals. We have a really awesome parent education program. Some of the programming is for parents with young children. Some of it is helping parents understand post-secondary options for their children. A lot of fun. It's always it's a lot of interactive work. And then workforce development, we're teaching English. Every night we have about 250 students at Pellissippi on Division Street, now TCAT.
200 plus?
Learning English Monday through Thursday. And we also do things like soft skills. We help people prepare for high set in Spanish, and we have a really cool small business program with a co-starter curriculum. It's one of 6 in Spanish across the country. Very, very exciting work as well. And then in our community resources is really the gate to Centro. So if you move from another town and you want to know where you need a doctor, or you want to know what school to enroll your child in, or you want to just get to know more people, that's where you start out in community resources. And so we weave together lots of different people in different communities.
I was first introduced one-on-one with Centro at the Muse luncheon that I
Yes.
emceed. And you all have a pretty cool program that you have for new mom, because it's such an exciting time to be a new mom, and everybody wants the same thing for their child.
Absolutely. We love the Muse. We have great partnerships with them. And really that program is interesting because oftentimes our communities coming from rural areas in their own countries, and they aren't going to have a children's museum, right? Yeah. They aren't going to have the training to or the education necessarily to understand what resources they can use to help their children develop. Mm-hmm. And so we partner with the Muse to use all the resources they have and also incorporate healthy parenting. It's really interesting. We never assume that our families wouldn't know how to parent, right? And sometimes there will be programs that create from that, but we're very strength-based program design. And so what is really the work we do is incorporating, okay, with the knowledge you have and the values you have from your own culture and your own tradition, how do we then incorporate things from this other culture that now is also part of your culture? So it's a really beautiful program, and moms and babies get to play together, and it's just a really special moment for families.
When you look at the work that you all are doing, for you personally, how does this register with you? Do you feel that impact? Do you kind of walk away at the end of the day like, today was a good day? Like we helped some folks.
I'm really lucky to be able to work a day job and sometimes long day job that fits my values and fits my belief system, because every day I feel like I am contributing in some small way to improving people's lives. I'm really passionate about helping people see opportunities that maybe they didn't even know existed, because when I moved to the States in 2011 as an adult, there were so many things I didn't know about life in the States. I'd lived here as a child, but it's not the same when you come back as a grown-up. And so, friends and strangers just opened doors or explained opportunities to me, and I was always very trusting in that, and I always did my best to, put all of myself into projects, and I look at it now, and I want my community to have those same opportunities. And we develop an eye at some point for, oh, well, you have all these skills, and this organization has this need. What if we partner, right? And so I'm really grateful that my job fits that passion so well. I don't mean to brag, but
Go ahead, brag a little.
I've never had a day that I don't want to go to the office. I may not want to, get out of bed because it's raining and cold, but there's never been a day where I would dread the work I do. And that's been a real sign to me of being in the right place at the right time. I have an amazing team of people that just really care and are willing to challenge me as a leader and help me grow as a person. And I'm very happy. It's a really great place to be.
Most people watching this will never understand or have that experience of trying to fit in to a community, because many people here, I'm third generation Knoxville, and they've been here a long time. This is home. What is it like for you? Some of those stories of people trying to find their place in East Tennessee or in Knoxville?
Calling a place home is something I've worked on all my whole life. My family moved around probably 12 times by the time I was 18. So every place I went was this race to make it feel like home, right? Either my room or meeting people and building community. And so I know firsthand what it is to feel like you need to figure out those roots. It starts with social capital for me. Being able to call someone and ask for advice, being able to call an organization and say, hey, I don't understand this, how does this work? That's really one of the things that I think is very important about Centro's work. When you migrate, you lose your social capital, you lose your extended family oftentimes. So you have to build that up again, right? And what does that look like? And sometimes you aren't going to bump into the people that you'd want or you'd make your extended family. So Centro offers that opportunity to people. I find it really interesting because if I go back to Texas and visit family and friends, they're like, oh my gosh, I bet it's like so lonely in Tennessee. There aren't any Latinos. And actually, I mean, I speak more Spanish here than I ever did anywhere else, right? Because I'm surrounded by my community. And I've never felt as much belonging and as much home as I do here because of this community that I've built around me. So it's an effort. It's community doesn't just happen. Belonging doesn't just happen. We put in our own effort. Right. And then we have, Centro Hispano does a lot of this work. We also help the non-Latino community understand our community so that we can create those bridges and that belonging.
I was going to ask you that because it is a two-way. It's an organization that's just not putting into the Latino population, but it's really kind of bridging the gap in both directions.
Absolutely. So we talk about how at Centro we always talk about how integration is a multi-way street. And you can't just teach people English and then be like, all right, you figured it out. Like, you should be fine in this community, right?
Go forth and be.
Go forth and be, right. It's really about, okay, now the school system, like, how do we help the school system create services or advocate? How do we advocate so that Spanish-speaking families have more resources? Or, we've worked with food security organizations, and it's like, okay, well, what are some culturally relevant foods for this population, especially during the pandemic, right? We had a wonderful partnership with Second Harvest during the pandemic, and they were so culturally aware. They were like, wait, we know that we're going to be serving a lot of Latinos in this pandemic. Like, what food should we be thinking of, right?
Really?
And so, rice and beans and maseca, which is the corn flour for tortillas. When we talked about vegetables, like, what things should we have in mind? And it's different, it is a different set of things. And education then goes always. And I like talking about it, when we think of immigrants and we think of nonprofits, oftentimes there's kind of like this charity mindset to it. And we've worked very hard at Centro Hispano to move away from that narrative because truly Latinos contribute so much economically to the development of a region. And no one's asking for handouts. People are asking for a stepping stool to understand what they need to know to get to the next place. And so we have entrepreneurs, we have folks wanting to go back to school, we have folks, just really working hard to understand the system so that they can better their lives and contribute to the community. And using that story of inspiration and hard work, we've wanted to change the way that nonprofits are seen, but also how the Latino community is seen. Centro has 3 values that I love.
Okay.
And they are comunidad, latinidad, y corazón. And we kept them in Spanish for a reason. So latinidad is is Latino, comes from Latino, right? And it's really the acknowledgement of our diversity as Latinos. We come from so many different countries. We speak different languages sometimes. Colloquially, we speak different dialects, so to say. Our foods are different. We have indigenous history. We have mixed race history. We have mestizos. We have Afro-Latinos. We have white-presenting Latinos. And so in our value of Latinidad, it's truly about that whole story of our cultural richness, right? Comunidad is a very transparent word, so we kept it also in Spanish. And it's about the community, right? At Centro Hispano, we are very much a home for folks that are trying to find something new. And so our waiting area is not called a waiting area, we call it our living room.
Oh, I love that.
And our kitchen is the heart of our organization in many ways as well, because food is very strong in our culture. And then corazón is something I really love that value, because corazón, the direct translation would be a heart or love, you know? But the image we associate on our documents and everything, corazón is actually fire, because corazón is also the value, the valor and the strength and the courage that it takes to uproot yourself and go somewhere new and start again. And you know, very much like flames, they can things will happen and people have setbacks, but we come back so much stronger. And so for us, that corazón is really determination. And I don't know, I think when when I think of our values, they're values of strength and of pride in our community. And we really want to be able to keep our culture and our heritage and embrace the new community as well. So how do we keep one foot in both worlds and use all of those parts of us as a strength instead of having to compartmentalize who we are?
I was going to ask, how hard is it to honor your roots, but you basically uprooted yourself into a whole new community that may not get you?
It's a tricky question. I think there are different levels of privilege in it. I think as a white presenting Latina who doesn't have an accent, who has college degree, I feel like I have a lot of freedom of being fully myself and unapologetic. I don't feel discriminated against. Maybe I am and I don't know it, but I don't feel it.
Right. It's not apparent.
It's not apparent to me. But I do know community members that still, they'll be in the grocery store and someone will tell them to not, to speak English because they're in America. So we have situations like that. I think our community is very gracious in giving people second chances at that. And I also think that we know that it's a learning process and that we are here doing what everyone else is doing, working, thriving, living. I like reminding everyone that, even though we have sometimes there's poverty in our community or hardship, we still live and thrive and celebrate, right? And celebration is so important to any community and to any society. So we have situations that aren't always great, but at the end of the day, we will continue to thrive because that's how our culture, that's what we do,
Yeah.
And it's also really interesting because I meet so many surprising allies in the community.
What do you mean by that?
Just folks that, I would never have thought, would be supportive of Latinos and immigrants. And they have their own stories. And maybe it's a grandchild that fell in love with someone that was Latino and now they have grandbabies that are Latino. Or maybe they, developed a friendship with someone who did work with them and they really respected their work ethic. And that just really started changing their mind about what they had heard about Latinos or immigrants. And so I always think that those are the stories that give me hope. When I meet someone who's like, I want to know how I can help because I've been helped as well, and it's a beautiful bridge that gets created.
Do you have a favorite story from Centro Hispano? Somebody who came through and they really thrived. Whatever happened, they came through, they got what they needed from you all, and it's like you look at that one and you go, wow, look at them.
There's so many great stories at Centro. One of the people I'm thinking of, she's a young woman who came in for English classes first, and she was there for a couple of years learning English. Then she went and did her high set equivalent. Then she went and got her high set certificate. And she went through a wellness program at Centro. It was a women's wellness program, and lost a whole bunch of weight that she had just really been struggling with, and had really affected her self-esteem and her image of herself. And then just recently she graduated from our small business program, and she's now starting a little healthy food truck.
What?
And so, I know. And so it's like all these iterations, and her kids have gone through our programs, and her in-laws have been through our programs, and she's just a really cool woman, and like nothing stops her. So that's a really great story. I think one of the things I really love through Centro, I call them my kids. I have 3 mentees, and we several of my team members have mentees through Centro, and I've watched them grow. I've met them when they were 14, 15, and now they're early 20s and they're figuring out life. And I think one of the things I like the most at this place in their lives is how they're grappling with happiness.
Yeah.
and what makes them happy and what maybe they thought was cool as, in their late teens, or what they thought they wanted. And, they went and worked corporate jobs, and they were like, actually, I don't know if this is what I want. Like, I don't feel like I'm giving back to my own community. I don't feel my identity. And, just walking through those existential crises with young people is truly a gift. And it's not just, a lot of people think that being a mentor is the part where you're giving to younger generations. And for me, it's just the opposite. For me, it's the gift of young people showing me the world through their eyes. Because I really, as a leader, I think we don't just look into the past for our wisdom. We really need to be on the cutting edge of what's coming. And what better thing than, talking to young people. And half the time, I sound so old, but like half the time I'm like, what does that even mean that you're telling me? What is this bet? What is this?
Oh no, you didn't know bet.
But yeah, we have an amazing group of young
bet
people.
is an affirmation, by the way, if anybody's wondering. Bet, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You're supposed to say bet.
Bet.
But yeah, I really take leadership and learning from young people very seriously, because our population is going to change in the next 10 years. The demographics of East Tennessee are going to look very different. And I want our organization to be ready to support that third generation Latino, community.
Oh my gosh. What, if money was no option, the donation just came in the way you'd love, it was just, you make an ask and it came in. What would you love to see happen next with Centro?
Oh, well, right now we have been struggling for a building we've been looking for a building for the last 3 years.
Because you're growing.
We've been growing so much. So we started it when I got here, the organization's been around for 17 years. Right. But 7 years ago when I came in, it was 1.5 employees. I was the one employee and had a part-time employee. And now we're over 45 between part-time and full-time. It was a, $70,000, $80,000 organization when I got here, and we're a little over $2 million budget now. Because
that's amazing. And
we still haven't, we don't even, there's so much more to do in the community in terms of if money wasn't an option. We are working really hard for a middle school program for Latinos. We really want to see a hub for our small businesses. Currently, we're in our third cohort, so we're building up the groups of people. But more than money to get things, it's money to be able to pay people to do the work we need. Okay. So we would really like to have a couple more counselors. Mental health is a really big issue in the community, and it's hard to find mental health. There's a crisis in the country, but finding Spanish-speaking counselors is very challenging.
Language barrier.
Yeah. Having more small business coaches that speak Spanish is something I really want to see. We really would like to start a Latino leadership program because it's really important to us that we're on the same page as a community. Because, as much as we'd like to be romantic about the idea that we all just love each other and it's all perfect, because we come from such diverse backgrounds, there's colorism, there's racism, there's sexism, there's homophobia. And we need to grow and learn as communities as well, right? And we can't go, in my opinion, to do the work of representing our community without being on the same page about what things are important.
Ooh, I like that.
And so a leadership program, and we need to do it together first, right? Like we need to grapple with our own issues. And so I'm really excited. I love leadership programs. I'm excited about that at some point in our organization. It's in our strategic plan, and we'll be building up towards that. We would love to have a bilingual childcare facility at some point. Childcare is also a national crisis. It's a crisis locally as well. And we would like to have a place where our families could have a sliding scale option for childcare, but then people that can pay have an excellent option for bilingual childcare in the community as well. And that what I love about that is it's bringing our values, our strengths as a community, and adding value to the greater Knoxville community, right? Like it's the strength of being bilingual and bicultural and using that to add a program that is so needed for everybody, not just for Latinos.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love the whole getting on the same page first.
Yeah.
Kind of clean up your own home, then you come on out.
Very much so.
What other options are you all looking at bringing to the center? Is there, when you were talking about the middle school program, what are the needs of middle school children through your program?
So what happens is we work with the kids in elementary school. Well, we work with the kids, little kids, right? With their moms, and we're going to the Muse, and we're playing, and we're doing projects. And then we see them in elementary school when they're, figuring out reading and math and all this. And then we don't have any middle school program because we haven't had the funding. And then we try to catch them again in high school and college and post-secondary.
But middle school is such a tricky age.
But middle school is such a tricky age, and we know that we need to start engaging people, children at a younger age, especially for post-secondary options, mental health issues, leadership opportunities. And so we just recently got a small grant to do a pilot program for middle school, and we'll be working on that in the next school year. We already know it's a need. We're just going to figure out, what we'll have a draft of we'll have a pilot program and see what works and what doesn't. But really engaging families at all levels of their lives.
What would you want the East Tennessee community to know about the people you serve?
I think the people in East Tennessee already know it. We're hardworking, we're determined, we want to live a good life like everyone else, and we're willing to work really hard to do that. And we're just asking for the opportunity and the grace to be able to do what we need to do. It's really very human request.
It's not even a special request. It's pretty basic.
Yeah,
it's pretty basic.
I think that we're seeing more of it. We're seeing more of it. One of the things that Centro Hispano does that's really important, and it's actually not been an official program, but one of the things we do is we often, when you're thinking of, how do you hire diverse people in East Tennessee, right? Centro Hispano often, if not most of the time, hires very young people that are usually their first office job, their first, not in their family business or the work with, some extended family member. And one of the things that's really important about that is we are giving young Latinos the opportunity to be in a very culturally safe place, to be able to build their skills professionally. And we are we're very generous. I'd say we're great neighbors because young people will come work with us, and then we help connect them to whatever other organizations would, want to, or their career takes them in that direction, right? And so we have some really great partnerships and stories with folks like Project Grad, where some of the Project Grad Latino students, they supported them through high school, and then we did joint support through college, and then they came back, worked for us, and then yet again turned around and worked over at Project Grad, and now some of those folks are working in college settings. And one of the things that I like to invite the community and the greater community to do is give young people the opportunity, give young people the chance to be hired. They might not have all the experience that they need yet, but they're going to learn quickly, and they have the determination to learn. And I think it's really important, especially in communities that have young immigrant or Latino populations, for people to give them that chance to grow with their companies. And we do that at Centro all the time. And it's so beautiful to watch these young people. Sometimes they're not sure, even how to maybe write an email and just in a professional way.
One, yes.
And it's like, well, some of them, they don't even use their emails just yet, right? But, getting young people set up for success so that when they go out into other spaces, we also help them understand the value they bring as bilingual and bicultural young people. And we also are very passionate about making sure you show up as a whole person, and how can you do that, and what does that look like, And sometimes it's small things like, I think this is really important. When we show up to a place and we want to be our full selves, how can we do that professionally without erasing who we are? And oftentimes the question comes around what is professional dress, or how do I show up? And how do I show up with whatever part of me I want to bring, then it doesn't look unprofessional to the rest of the world, right? There's this balance for people. And I think that at Centro, we work really hard to help our young people. It's not even it's not a program that we have, but it's part of the ethos of our organization, of showing up fully yourself and creating spaces where we can do that. So that's one of the things I'm very passionate about at Centro.
No, that's wonderful because it feels like you can make your mistakes with family first before you go out into the world. It's a safe space.
Very much so. And I think because we understand where people are coming from oftentimes in young people, when something happens, it's like, let's step back. Culturally, what happened here? How can we help develop this in a different way, right? And there's a lot more grace. And the amazing things young people are doing now that, you know, started out maybe as interns 7 years ago and are out just doing amazing work and making the world a better place is just really inspiring.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I think what you all are doing is wonderful, and I love the vision that you brought to Centro and the growth, because we're all about growth for every community within the greater community.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Claudia.
You're very welcome.